Oh, right. Let's check this out. So I'm going to finish the slides we left off with on Monday. And it's a lot, but anybody else find this stuff entertaining? It's pretty cool to see body image throughout history and how rapidly it actually changes. If look at 100 years ago, the 1920s. Do you guys know what was really cool in the 1920s? Anybody? Like flapper era, the short dress. Women cut their hair short. It was kind of like a liberating time. That was during, but then it was followed up by the Depression. That changed things again. World War II changed things drastically since World War II. A lot has changed in American United States culture after World War II. So I do want to finish the slides, and I'm going to be really rapid through this. We kind of went through what is fitting in. The whole point of body image is a visible, right? A visible cue of fitting in. It's more people who are more insecure with themselves. Honestly, and that's not always the case, because you can travel the world and be super secure in yourself and still feel very intense impulses to want to change your dress to fit the dress codes of the culture you're in. But generally speaking, you could say in our own culture, within our own society, if you, like myself, have a very frail or fragile sense of self or a non-existent sense of self, you're probably going to look for cues that are more obvious and distinct to try to assimilate to get a sense of what I call quote unquote self, which really isn't yourself, it's a community idea. Okay, so we kind of looked at through history. You can see as I'm scrolling on the left here, historical ideas, and these are extreme ideas. And then it kind of changed into fatness and thinness. This was really prevalent in the United States. We talked about also advertising too, that in advertising, how body image is promoted and it's made to seem like you can buy something, right? And that if you buy that thing, you can acquire the image and then get the belonging you need. So let me just go into this. Bile beans, really just diuretics. And you can also be really patriotic if you take a diuretic. And also happy and healthy. So remember, what is really happiness is reserved for people who have secured their hierarchies of need, right? Those lower hierarchies. Then you go into real space of happiness. But ultimately, if your hierarchy of need is based on you taking bile beans to get a body image that's approved by men, then really you don't have a secure belonging. You have a very fragile belonging that requires male approval or female approval, right? Or whatever approval you're looking for. So you're really not secure, and this happiness will be fleeting, right? Again, we're kind of seeing more patriotic symbols. This is post World War II, or around World War II. This is again looking at, in this case, my approval requires men's acceptance, and this is the same for women and men. So you can flip this around in different ways, right? So we could say for men, approval is the car you drive because it means you have a degree of money to take care of me. All of that is like codependent belonging, third hierarchy of need, right? So for in this, it's just more pronounced, I think, the body image part for women. And men, it's like career image, can be equally as toxic, right? How much money, how much can you provide? How much can you take care of me? So, and it all is quite primitive and hardwired. So if you look at how this is advertised, this is still happening today. You will belong if you are skinny because men will approve of you. You see how there's some codependency in there. You're not independent. You're not approving of yourself. You have to get a body first. So the body becomes the block to your belonging. So if you believe in a lot of this, there is some with men I'm going to show you here soon. You can see she's rejected because she doesn't have the body image. This was actually a really beautiful concept in the 1990s. This kind of thinner, emaciated look was hot shit. Like you were seen as a symbol of superiority. This still exists. Oh, look, she's got a thigh gap. Yes, look at her. Men are running from her, right? Rejection, abandonment, disapproval. But if you can gain 10 pounds using ironized yeast, how many men here have tried ironized yeast to gain weight? You should try. Let me know. If you're trying to bulk up, let's go. Get some, let's find out. Right? A few weeks, don't forget, a few weeks later, now she's hot and now all the people love her. This is also showing you ideals for men. So this isn't just about some body image concept for women. It's also giving you representation of what men should want. Okay, I cannot dissect every single one of these, but you can see they're all kind of the same. I was skinny and lonely, then I gained weight. So there's all this confusion too, right? Should I be thin or should I be thicker? Where should we be to get a man so that we're approvable? Like, I can't go to the beach in this. This is hot, right? In 1990, then it was not. And then it went back again. So really the idea is your worth is based on a visual concept of your value. Again, you're not skinny enough. Using the same lady here. I put on 10 pounds. Look at all the male gazes. Anybody find this funny? Because I do. This is funny, but this was very serious for women, for your grandparents, your grandmother and grandfather. This is what they saw over and over and over again. So it was really common to have drama with their weight, right? Because they would be seen as not valuable. Reverse the situation. Look, you're not attractive, men. You're too skinny. Let's make fun of him. He's a scarecrow. So same thing. Both ways. Notice the male onlookers. Like that's your worth, is your sexual attractiveness. Medically approved. So this is another way that things are being, advertising is given authority. So if it's medically approved, then it must work. Just because they put that there. Like, just for putting that there. So here's another one reversing it. Building muscle, this hasn't changed for men. How many of you men in here would agree that this really hasn't changed? Right. Anybody disagree? Has this changed for men in terms of one way to look at body image and what is seen and least promoted in advertising as superior? Anybody not agree? Okay. If girls laugh, you know when you take your shirt off, they'll be breaking down the doors to get dates with you. Oh, if you take the Dynaflex body. How hard do you think this is? I think this was the dude that played Hercules. That was in, I don't know, I could be wrong. No, I think it is. Many of you guys watched Arnold Schwarzenegger's Netflix? It's awesome. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was super.
He was very much inspired by body image.
Yeah, very good.
Yes. If you get a chance to watch it on Netflix, if you can borrow someone's Netflix, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was really popular in the 90s when I was growing up, and he still is, he was real formative in bodybuilding. And he came from Austria in a home where his father was traumatized by war, and they lost. They were part of the Nazis, and he wanted out, and body image was his way to feel valuable. And he really got into bodybuilding, and it inspired him to work really hard. So body image is not a bad thing. It can be really important in terms of dating, in terms of like wanting to be seen as clean and more, right? So I gotta keep on going. We have so much to go through. Again, nobody is just naturally skinny. Is that true? Because basically what they're saying is you're a piece of shit. How many of you see this inferred, maybe not so overt, right? This is very overt shaming, but it's inferred in the fitness industry. That if you don't have lean, low body fat, there's something, you're lazy, because you could achieve it. If you really wanted it, you could achieve it. That is really the premise of narcissistic body image. Not realizing that for this man to have this hairless body, he would have to be manipulated. He would have to be so self-centered to achieve something like this, right? Self-absorbed and ultimately in survival mode. So what it takes, right, for someone to gain this amount of body fat, this limited amount of hair, is a lot of energy, a lot, which would require on some level some type of survival mode, right? Trying to fit a certain body image. Okay. You can reduce your weight through listening, everybody. Just listen to some stuff. Again, I lost 5 pounds in a week. Look how lean she already is. Just, again, wanting things to be seen is easy. And I think I left you guys off with last week was advertising. If it was really, really hard, you might, or if it was extremely difficult, or if the probability that it was successful was actually put on the advertisement, like there's maybe a 2% chance that you're gonna look like this if you smoke, only like maybe 2%. Plus you're gonna have cancer. They probably wouldn't, it wouldn't work, right? This is hilarious. So we're gonna create an extra, so all or nothing, super athlete to someone that really has probably some mental health issues to get to that state. But smoking cigarettes, that's gonna help you achieve this body image. Track and field athletes, how many of you would recommend smoking? Right? I mean, there might be some temporary benefit to the nicotine raised, maybe temporary, but it comes with a lot of cost. Keep on smoking. Again, all or nothing. And ultimately, what is this selling? What is this selling here? Is it really selling cigarettes? What is it actually selling? I'm not going to answer this. You tell me. Through what? What body image? For who? For who? Yeah, for men, probably. I don't know about you guys, but do you swim in trees? Look at me with sex kitten over here, right here. Wow. You smoke, you're a sex kitten. Again, there's messaging around hair, face, posture. They also sold sugar, right? You'll be happy in your family. He'll be happy with you. It does give you an energy lift. It does stimulate the central nervous system, but it comes with a cost. And again, it will give you the willpower you need to curb your appetite. Why would you need to curb your appetite? So there's beliefs in here, right? What belief would suggest that it is agreeable that you should curb your appetite? For what? For what? She said to lose weight. Why? Why would you need to be thin? Yeah, but not really.
Yeah, cool, like.
That's a way to cloud everything. The health industry has used that. Because you need to be healthy. It's really, really hard to see that one, but I'll show you some. We're gonna get into all the health advertising for weight loss. So to lose weight for what? To be thin for what? Which is accommodating what survival need. So sugar is for love and belonging, right? So do you see, it's really important that you recognize that there's a lot of behaviors that are inferred. Once you internalize the body image, you would go, oh, yes, I should be thinner, right? You don't question it. Now we're going to take amphetamines. Okay? I think, and let's teach this to our daughters, and to make sure that you have the thinnest weight possible. So you can see protein cereal will help you. For what? So we're going to be healthy, but really, is this about health? What is this about? Same thing, a body image for approval. Take some amphetamines, but you can also eat all you want, right? No drugs, no diet, results guaranteed. Why? Like, what is this telling you? This is all about a sense of worth, and you will fit in, and people will like you, and especially men. And I want you to recognize this right here. Why would this person have this kind of visible, demonstrable feeling? What is she feeling? Right. Maybe that she feels less valuable, and whoever this person is who is slender might be more valuable. So feeling less than. I mean, that's what they're demonstrating with this. This right here is you need to do something about it, right? You need to do something about it. The thing is this, women hold women to this, and men hold other men to what those ideologies are. Women are more critical of other women than men are, right? Boys wouldn't look at me until I lost 135 pounds. So you lose weight and then you're seen as a threat, right? To your standing in terms of your attractiveness, right? It's all very confusing. Same one. Oh, but then there's the shaky machines. Those are actually kind of fun. So this is what I mean by the 1990s. This was hot. The juvenile body, the body that looks like it hasn't gone through menstrual cycles yet. This is actually really common in the gay community. That you are to look prepubescent to be sexually attractive. Very common internalized beliefs about self-worth, which really isn't about yourself, it's about being attractive. This is what I grew up looking at as my inspiration. This is Twiggy. She was the beginning of this. So she was like 70s, and by the 90s, it looked like that. This is what your mom and dad saw growing up on the female side. Flat belly, it's all focused in. So it starts to change in the 90s by fixating on the stomach. So they don't even look at the whole body anymore, the whole person. It's fixated on a body part, magnified. So we can see that with, let's say, the Kardashians. They're going to magnify one single body part, right? As a symbol of attractiveness. which symbolizes worth, which symbolizes secure hierarchies of need. Here's exactly what you have to do. So this is all super common. 5 best muscle building supplements. Yes. Again, shape. This takes a lot of work, a lot of money. So another, not only are you the successful person, it's gonna make a fuck ton of money. But you gotta be hot too, you guys, and no hair, again. Just by joining Anytime Fitness, you walk through the doors, bam. You got the money, and then how many of you have tried these? Or that are into weight training, you try them yet? Do you think you'll look like this if you just stick those on? This is very much so advertising as if you take this is what will happen. They're not showing you the 3 to 4 hours or more of time that this person is putting into the gym, isolating very specific body parts, because the point is developing muscle gain. Really magnified. Beef mode. It's just awesome. Weight gain diet. So what is this person inferring? Is this not good enough? Too lean, too thin, too skinny? Before afters. So before afters are really good examples of promoting the ideal, because for some people this is amazing, but no, it's not. It's still not good enough, and it just keeps on going because they got to sell more. Get ripped. So you basically are a freaking Roman stud. How many of you have seen the whole memes around how many times a day do men think about the Roman Empire? I think about it quite often because I'm an evolutionary psych, right? How many of you think about the Roman Empire like every week? Thank you for being vulnerable. There's your inspiration. Again, weight loss, same shit, another day. Different body parts, blowing it up. How much will you need? Here are the areas. They're literally telling you what you cannot, like how you should do it, what you should be looking for. Can't have crow's feet. Oh shit. There's the Brazilian butt lift. This is cool. I'm not wrong. This is hey, I just want to, as much as we're pointing it out, this is a real thing for people. They feel horrible about themselves because this is what they think will provide them access to being attractive to a certain type of person that will secure their needs. So they're getting a survival impulse to want to save money to do this. This happens in men too. Calf implants, pec implants, bicep implants, because they're looking at all that media. So impacts for both men and women. Let's just look at this quickly. What impacts how you feel about your bodies? How, and if you agree, raise your hand. Social media for women, for men. Right? Social media, because that's probably what you're seeing repeated over and over and over and over and over and over again more often. Right? TVs and movies for women. Okay. For men, 16%. For women, 19%. Significant other, the person that you are maybe sexually partnering with. How many of you are mostly concerned about how they think? No? Let's see, where is it for men? First one. Okay. Significant other. Ooh, oh shit. Too soon. Anyways, you're getting the point, right? So really, your activity, your friend groups, your significant other, but the social media is massive, and significant other, I would say, for both men and for women. very small percentage really are concerned about health. Less than 1% for women and less than, again, 1% for men. So negative body image, this is just a picture to represent. You would take yourself, compare it to the internalized idea. Again, you said, I agree that body would get me belonging. You might not be thinking that consciously, but that's ultimately what you're agreeing with. That if that's attractive, therefore it means something important to my belonging. Once you've internalized it, then you compare your body to that measure, and then the difference ultimately can define how negative you feel about your body. You cannot feel negative about your body unless you have internalized a concept. You can't judge someone else's body unless you've internalized a concept that you're imposing on everybody around you, as if like we should all think the same way or believe the same things. So we're going to talk about what does it mean to have positive body image then. Positive body image ultimately means that you are more positive about your body because it matches the image. I feel positive because I look more closely like those standards. I really love Khloe Kardashian, but she to me epitomizes body image in a way that is very dogmatic. Their whole family, it bums me out for them. So the illusion is that you're safer because your body matches it more, right? That I feel positive because I'm not as vulnerable to criticism. And the crazy thing is, you never really feel content with your body when you aren't content with it in its natural form. What it takes to be content with your body requires that you accept what it is. So if you can't accept what it is in its natural state, how are you going to know how to accept what it is when it's manipulated? It's very difficult and temporary. Positive body image is still limiting because it still emphasizes your worth based on being attractive, for one, or compliance, just compliance alone. Like your worth is based on just being compliant, following the rules. So one of the things is the connection between your worth and beauty. You're beautiful. Why is beauty the standard for my worth? You're good looking. Why is that? You know, it has a lot to do with if you don't have any other sense of value, then this becomes your standard. Does this make sense? Anybody have a question about this? So ultimately, your goal is to have confidence in your body as it is. So this is an interesting statistic. Do Americans become more or less confident about their bodies over time? I think so. No? You can see here the trend. Women become maybe more confident, slightly. A little bit, right? So body positive, if you hear this, that's like, I'm good because I am attractive, or I believe I'm attractive. So it's connected to that attraction, that belonging. And body neutrality is, I'm feeling pretty good about my body, regardless of my appearance. So it's taking the idea that you need to be attractive away from your sense of worth. That does not mean that you do not brush your teeth, do your hair, go to the gym, find clothes that fit. Just means that your sense of belonging is not connected to what other people think about your body, about beauty. It's not connected, right? That your sense of awe and appreciation and connection to the body has nothing to do with, again, that third hierarchy of needs, separating the two. This does not mean that you don't feel the need to blend in or fit in. It does not mean that. It just means that your belonging doesn't require that you assimilate to an image. The goal is that you feel safe in your body. The problem with body image, especially as it relates to belonging, is that you're immediately put in a position to kind of abandon the body because it's not safe. Disassociation from the body, it's not safe. This can be also in terms of sexuality. It's not just the way you look. So for me, when I had sex before marriage, because that was seen as a deadly sin to God, I disassociated from my body and then became the master and tried to manipulate it to make it better. Right? Sexual sex, extreme shame and guilt. The body is the source of abandonment, rejection, disapproval. I will make it better by fixing it, by making it more athletic, more lean and controlled. Right? So that abandonment of the body, because it is your threat, is a major part of more extreme body image. People that are more attracted to the extremes can be that at some point, it doesn't have to be sexual assault or assault through shame and abandonment. The ultimate goal is that you feel safe in the body, that you are willing to agree to what it's doing for you. Can you agree that what your body is doing for you is good enough? And if you can't agree with it in its current state, when are you going to agree with it? Because you're going to spend time manipulating it, changing it, trying to fix it. And then are you going to agree to inhabit it? So in a sense, if your body is unsafe, you will not inhabit it. There is a degree of separation psychologically that you will create between your sense of self and the body. So it's common to hear, I don't feel like I look like myself. Well, that's a sign. Someone has not inhabited, they are disinhabiting their body. And then they are looking at it as a threat. Any questions on that? It's sometimes hard for people to soak in. There is something really wrong with messages that try to convince you that it's your body that's the problem. And this messaging is typically coming from capital. Someone is trying to capitalize on you thinking that your body's not good enough and that you need to fix it, right? The whole beauty industry is based in this. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one, but this is our homework. I won't have probably time to describe it. So homework until next Monday. You are to find two, not one. If you put one, you're going to get dock points. Two common body images in your own group. And this is online. This is in our Canvas. Two of them. And think it through. Find something that's like maybe not as obvious. It can be hair. It can be clothing, uniform. It can be any aesthetic. It can be concepts of health. Provide a picture. So give us a visual understanding of this, right? And then I want you to really consider what body image standards you hold yourself to. I pick and choose when I put on makeup. I don't put on makeup when I'm training clients in the morning. I don't give a shit what they think. But I put makeup on for class. I put makeup on. One of these days, I might not put makeup on. And you're gonna be like, who was that? Right. So I pick and choose when I assimilate to that. Yeah. So that's the assignment. Okay, so let's move into this next frame. So we're going to get into narcissism, and the narcissistic it's going to be similar, and we got a little over 30 minutes to go through it. Any observations or questions about any of this? Anything? Because at this point, I'm just lecturing the hell out of you. Nothing? Okay, narcissistic supply. Okay, so before we go through these, so this is kind of going over what I was talking about with, here's your security. This is the one that everybody's kind of struggling with for the most part. And if you are struggling with this one and this one, you're probably saying, if I find that, these will be more secure. And this is probably why early century ago, women were so identified by sexual attractiveness because they couldn't work. They couldn't support themselves. We couldn't get a freaking credit card or buy a house without a man until the 1970s. So that immediately put women on fire, survival-wise, just because of the cultural system that was imposed, that only men could have a job, men could get a credit card, men could get loans, men could get a home. We had to get a man to sign for any woman to have that. So until Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she changed it all. Anywho, so if you were not attractive to a mate as a woman, how are you going to support yourself? Right? So, supply. So what supplies, the way that they describe, how do you supply your belonging? How do you supply yourself? And so narcissistic supply, so as a reminder, narcissism is a developmental stage of wanting to feel special to the people in your community. And that specialness ultimately symbolizes security, that I am seen as good enough. I have something of value. Being narcissistic is when it's attached to I'm superior. It requires comparison. You have to be the most special. So there's competition, right? And so narcissistic supply, who wants to make a guess what that is?
Things that feed into that belief.
Specific. Yes. So it would be, anybody else want to make a guess? What is narcissistic supply then? What makes you superior? What is it that makes you superior is supply, right? Okay. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I gotta go faster. Oh, this is actually interesting. We're not gonna do anything for this, but I want you to think about this. What would life be like if idealistic expectations, i.e. body image, were completely removed? One way to do this, I want you guys to visualize this in your mind. If you went blind permanently, what would change about your physical presentation ideals? If you went blind, would they change? Consider that. Because you wouldn't have as much control over it, right? How would you, and I'm actually asking the question for you to answer at this point. I want someone to answer this. If you were blind, how would you get people to know you? Anybody? Getting awkward. Should I turn my music up? Guy, it's getting quiet. How would you? Just throw something out there. There's no right answer. It's really just how would you do that?
Like just give people the complete advice.
About what?
Like
how do you?
Music.
Okay, so what are we in terms of identity? Are we talking societal identity, right? Superficial identity? How do you get someone to know you if you were blind? How do you connect? How do you
Get involved?
is that well, you would have to get involved, but how do you express it? Right, I think you're getting there. Like, what are your likes? What are your feelings? You would have to really connect with what's important to you. So let's go the other route. If someone else is, if you're blind, how do you get to know someone else? Because you cannot immediately you can't assess them visually and then make your assumptions about them based on what body images you've internalized. around what's right, wrong, and what's narcissistic, what's superior, what's not inferior, how would you then connect with someone else if you're blind? What would you connect to? I'm gonna wait.
The personality.
Who said that? Personality. What are you looking for? If you're blind, what are you seeking in a conversation?
Like easy going. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know.
No, I think that's right. Like temperament. You want to know what's their temperament? Right? You would be very connected. Am I wrong? Because that's what you're like connected to how they position. What's their attitude? You would be far more aware of context. Right? Context meaning what their attitudes are. How are they? What is their demeanor? Right? How much of this do we just skip right over because we've already made assumptions based on their dress codes, what they do mean or what they don't mean? Something for you to assess for yourself. Who would you be if you couldn't manipulate your body image to present what it is? How do you express yourself if it's not through a physical form? Okay, we already went through this. Third hierarchy of need. Okay, grandiose narcissism. So that's another way of being narcissistic. A pattern of grandiosity or self-importance. I am superior identity. Entitlement because of exaggerated feelings of superiority. I'm superior to you. I do get the best. You get the worst. Obsessive need for admiration. Why would this be obsessive? Why would someone need to be admired? Have to tell you how successful they are. Why would they want someone to fawn them? It's attached to, yes, admiration. You're so special, you're amazing, right? It is attached to love and belonging. They tend to have lack of empathy towards others. Why would that be? Do you guys know what empathy is? Someone wanna?
Like being able to relate to someone, sure.
Yes, being able to relate. Totally, 100%. That's a great, simple way to describe it. Being able to have a sense of what they might be going through, maybe, on some level. Why would this person lack empathy? Someone's stuck in this state of mind. I don't want to identify the person. I'll start with you.
They're like giving them like perspective, like understanding when their situation is taking
Yes, and why would that be a bad thing?
the validation.
Right, if they have empathy for someone else, in a way, basically then they would lose their position. Maybe that person is of more importance is what we're looking for.
Yeah, I was gonna say something like that, like. They would feel like they're stooping to someone else's level.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yes, that's like losing position. Giving attention to someone else might make you seem weak. Too, if you have empathy for someone who might be struggling, that can be seen as weak or going down to a level because you're supposed to be superior. And oftentimes someone with this grandiose narcissistic idea, like sense of self, they don't have empathy for themselves. They don't have a sense of compassion or kindness within themselves. So if you don't know what that feels like for yourself, how can you actually understand how to feel that for someone else? If there is no sense of empathy for your own humanness, you have to meet these high standards and there is no lenience. Why would you be able to give lenience to other people? It doesn't work like that. You don't have that sense in yourself. How can you then present it to someone else? You can't. Plus, it does take attention off of you. Again, excess sense of self-importance. I am important, that's authority. They're seeking authority because that means that they are dictating other people's like who can be abandoned, who's below them. Typically, they are highly visible, showy, relies heavily on others to validate their importance, will lie to gain admiration and recognition. They will never put themselves in a position to be exposed. So in a debate, they just wouldn't show up. Or their way of debating in a public situation would be to just constantly shame others with no substance. Right? Because they have to maintain superiority. So if they are lacking any intelligence or any valid reason to have a position of authority, their way of maintaining authority is just constantly berating others for menial, stupid things. They demand others to conform to their needs, despite others being harmed by that. They blame others for their failures, will attach their success. They will also attach their success to others. So this is also narcissistic supply. So someone who is in this state of, I'm superior to you, I can do no wrong, everything is always someone else's fault. The reason I didn't do well is because someone else is at fault. If they have a friend or a child or a parent or a sibling who's highly successful, oftentimes they will attach to that as their own success. This is way more common in the parent narcissistic position to child. And trust me, there are children narcissists that have parents that are in that position. But typically you'll see a parent whose child is very successful in a way, and the parent will never let the child stop because it's the way the parent promotes themselves socially. My child is so successful, I am successful, we are superior. So they're holding on to, again, the access to something that presents or puts them in a position of superiority. Like this. This is a good visual representation of how someone with grandiose narcissistic tendencies run. Because this is what they think they need to feel belonging. Do they really actually feel belonging? Never. Belonging to them is being superior and having power to exclude others. So vulnerable narcissism. Does anybody know what vulnerable narcissism is? It's very much paired with grandiose narcissism. So vulnerable narcissism is the child that's been raised by, let's just say, and it doesn't have to be like that, it can be the wife or the husband in a relationship with a grandiose narcissist. You could be the best friend of someone who is a grandiose narcissist. So the vulnerable narcissist is the one that's fawning to the grandiose. I will hold myself to these elite standards for their approval so that I don't get hurt, so I don't get punished. I have to hold myself to really high standards. So here's the grandiose narcissist. This doesn't have to just be a person, by the way. This can be a belief system that you have to worship, that you have to identify by. It could be a narcissistic ideology, right? It can be a narcissistic country. It can be a ton of things. And then the vulnerability side of it is, I must meet the standards of approval that are really high, perfectionistic, idealistic, no room for problems. If there's a problem, that means that maybe I'm bad, right? They're usually raised by or married to a grandiose narcissist or friends with. To be loved or given attention, you've learned that you must attain and maintain a superior status. You have to maintain a superior religion, superior grades, superior talents, superior wealth, superior jobs, superior body image. It goes on and on and on. Can anybody relate to this? Social media, maybe? Right? If you're constantly watching people who are probably maybe grandiose, following them, following their footsteps, listening to them shame and judge other people, you might internalize that and be afraid that you'll be judged that way. You don't want to be judged that way. So you'll accommodate. So you end up looking like you're self-absorbed because you're so fixated on changing your body, putting your clothes on right, getting the best grades, being in the top of the class. But if you don't do that, the grandiose narcissist in your life, like a friend or a friend group, or your religious group, or your political group, or your team, whatever, might not want you. You might not be good enough. And so the vulnerability would be abandonment, rejection, disapproval. So if you don't succeed, you're gonna have fight or flight. You're gonna have all of those symptoms, right? Your belonging becomes threatened, not because you did something really horrible. It's just because you're not superior. Does that make sense? So your whole perception of what's acceptable gets distorted. So I felt insane degrees of shame because I had sex before marriage. Felt like I was a worthless, chewed up piece of gum. Because that's what we were told, actually. And I internally felt as if I might as well have tortured animals for fun. Like the degree of shame I experienced was probably equal to what deserves that type of shame, to where you're isolating, you have to compensate with some obsessive compulsive eating disorder. Think about what type amount of shame would require such insane degrees of compensation. Well, that's how perfectionistic the ideals were. Any deviation were catastrophic, right? And this was a catastrophic sin in my belief system. So is that really worthy of treating yourself as if you torture baby kittens, right? So if any of you here are experiencing degrees of shame about yourself, embarrassment, really question if the standards you're holding yourself to are grandiose in narcissistic nature. Because if you're experiencing shame, really consider what is worthy of abandonment, rejection, disapproval, and shunning into the wilderness to starve to death, right? Because that's what our brains think is going to happen, even though it's not. Consider, right, that you might be living or be trained or conditioned by some narcissistic, a grandiose narcissistic way of thinking. So without that superior status, you would then feel low self-esteem. Maybe I'm not good enough. Feelings of inadequacy, feelings of insecurity. You might be hypersensitive to criticism. Tiny little bits of failure might feel explosion, like an explosion of catastrophe. Which again, fight or flight kind of works that way. If you can't get away from the bear, you're kind of screwed, if you know what I mean, right? So you're catastrophizing your belonging because belonging to your group is so radical in terms of perfectionistic and following and maintaining these ideals. Vulnerable narcissists can be more realistic about their abilities compared to a grandiose narcissist. So grandiose narcissists, who again are the elite of superiors, they wouldn't go get therapy because they would think the therapist is beneath them. They think they know more than the therapist, right? Whereas a vulnerable narcissist, they tend to go to therapy because they don't necessarily hold their self-concept to that. They're just trying to comply to someone who's holding it to that. So they're more likely to go try to find help and not realize maybe their grandiose ideas are holding their belonging hostage. Any comments about this? Anybody know or have had a relationship with a grandiose narcissist? Right. Didn't have to be a person. Mine was a belief system. How about a vulnerable narcissist? For example, like if you're in if you were raised in a marriage where one of the parents were really grandiose and the other one had to meet the standards, there was probably a lot of fighting, crying, mean words said. I mean, there can be highly criticized. One parent is highly criticized. The other one is constantly criticizing and more willing to seek therapy. Okay, so we're gonna apply this to body image and then speed through this. So in terms of body image, if you don't have a sense of value internally and you're gravitating more towards societal expectations for body image, chances are, because of the narcissistic nature of our culture, you're having negative body image because you're holding yourself to some extreme ideal, right? That feeling you get when you've lost the weight. What feeling are they talking about here? First of all, what belief is inferred in this?
It's good to lose weight.
Yes. It's good to lose weight. Thinner is always better. And what is the feeling that would be experienced by someone who believes that and loses weight? Go to fight or flight. What would be experienced for someone who thinks they've attained a safe physical image or safer? Anybody? Again, this is inferring you know what they're talking about. So what are they talking about here? What feeling do you get when you comply? What did you say?
I said belong.
And you said belonging. Yeah, you're gonna get a sense like maybe I am valuable. Thank you. Simple. Anything that supplies a source of superiority, attention, admiration, value. It's like getting validation. Body image can be a source of narcissistic supply. Right? It can supply you a sense of I am successful and I am superior. Again, you're fitting in for survival, what it takes to fit in, that's supply. So what, in this case of the kind of the puzzle, what makes this exactly the right fit to fit? So it's the survival attachment that makes it attractive. That's a biological reaction in your brain to what is it about the attraction? It's about the sense of belonging. It's this freedom, this illusion that when you lose the weight or when you gain the muscle or when you have the long hair or when you have bigger boobs or when your butt's as big as whatever, or bigger, I mean, whatever it is, the illusion is that I will have achieved belonging and I can then be myself. I can reach a higher level. Really, ultimately, what you're saying is I'm gonna eventually be right here. I can be myself. I don't have to worry. I can think openly. I can play. I can explore. That's what the fantasy is. That's what you're attaching to it, is transcending these lower states of consciousness, lower states of survival into those higher states that Maslow described, right? That's what it is. That's what your brain is signaling. This is not like made up shit. You are actually, when something is quote unquote attractive, chances are it's supplying something here that is an illusion that these are then going to be secured, which means you can be yourself. I just want to be myself. I don't want to fixate on it. So you're really fantasizing about surviving, actually reaching surviving actively versus securing survival down below. So why would you need the sexiest butt ever? Here's another one. This is pretty awesome. Like seriously, whoever put this together, it's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. This is amazing. Anybody in media here? It's impressive. I had a couple people from in media in my last one and I showed this. They were like, that's terrible. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's exploding out of this powder. Fighter jets. Hardcore, right? Again, this is very narcissistic. Do you feel that? Can you get a sense of that? Winning. America. Kind of going back to like, see her, looking at her. Okay, so let's look at modern day fitness ads. Kind of this is kind of funny because to me they're appealing to the feminist movement. Like, this is not Barbie. We're not following supermodels. Fit is the new thing. Is it really different? Just different standards. So not only do you have to be ultra freaking lean, but you have to have the muscles and built like it. This is what I thought I had to look like. And I did look like that. It just wasn't worth it to me. And is that really healthy when you consider what this is promoting? I mean, we could argue it's healthy primitively. This is probably primitive survival mechanisms that are working healthily. you'll be better. If you're fit, then you're sexy. So do you see the connection to belonging and what is being sexy for? Being attractive to a mate. If I can attract a mate, secure, right? The fantasy is if I can get that, if I'm hot, I'm attractive, that gives me a sense of security because I can always have a mate. Again, how bad do you want it? So inferring that this body image is a survival need. And why would it become an addiction? So this, in this side, what is it about body image results that would be addictive? What would someone be addicted to?
Validation from other people.
Which is for what? Yes, you're addicted to belonging, right? But you're right, the validation then would be an external idea that you are worthy of this. Is it actually secure? Not at all. Someone who uses this will never be secure because you have to maintain it. You can't let this go. So your whole reality, and this is what happened to me, my whole reality got sucked into maintaining a body image. Because if I stopped, all of that underlying trauma was gonna come up. So I ran as if I was running from the Grim Reaper, thinking that this body image would make me feel better. So it doesn't secure the third hierarchy of need. The way you see your body gets distorted in a negative way. So that's that negative distortion. You get dysmorphic. You become preoccupied, somewhat obsessive about ways to change your body. Again, this is not for everybody. It's always on a spectrum. The more insecure you are, the more you rely mostly on body image because a lot of people spread it out, right? They might have some degree of body image needs, some degree of academic needs, some degree of like religious needs, some degree of, and so it's a little more spread out, right? I know for me, I was so ingrained to have just one identity that when that one I sucked at, I was just one identity next. Had I had more kind of balanced in like social, cultural systems that I was assimilating to, I probably wouldn't have become so extreme. So that's something to observe too. Again, if you run, so in this ad, what is the narcissistic supply? Yep, being sexy AF. And then what's the narcissistic supply to the sexiness? How do you attain the sexiness in this? By running. So running isn't about health, it's about belonging. Now, this is literally an advertisement. No words. What is this saying? I mean, he's really built. And what they're saying is if you eat the way we tell you to, so what's the narcissistic supply? What does that mean? What would that mean for a man? Probably a mate. Maybe competition within the male sex, yeah, power, competition. And then what's the supply to the supply? Yeah, this is someone's blog. We're gonna tell you what to eat. You can see the Bowflex here. I don't know about you, but he's wearing like really weightlifting shoes that require for power lifters on the Bowflex. There's a lot of detail in this that they're trying to get a specific consumer. They are selling body image and health probably with someone who does not use a Bowflex. This person does not use a freaking Bowflex. Here's a great higher standard, inferring what type of, is this good enough? Is this narcissistic? Right? Being able to see, when you see it all the time, you might not, you'll just believe it and then go, well, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah. Well, what is it that you really want? What are your ambitious goals, right? You're spending, this says right here, you're putting a lot of hours of intense training to achieve ambitious goals. What would those be? Right? Maybe competition, maybe obviously they're sharing, yeah, swole, yoked. This is called your serratus anterior. This is a pretty cool muscle here. Pullovers. You want those, you gotta do more pullovers. But yeah, high standard. So this is kind of narcissistic in what it's inferring here. It would be very attractive to someone who's feeling really bad or low about themselves. Here's kind of how, you know, the abdomen shots that I was telling you. So drink Pepsi. Again, you can do it, we can help. Drink what she's wearing. Selling sexual attractiveness, right? This is really interesting. Axe commercial. Just go back to those tapeworms, right? Go back to the tapeworms, the amphetamines. Of course, this is a kind of a joke, but they're definitely telling you what you don't want to be and what you should be, right? In terms of probably attractiveness to women is what I would suggest or assume. Attractiveness to a mate. Now we're getting into more health, fat burning. Do these people look like they need this fat burning protein shake? No. Probably not. That's the thing. It's really interesting. Here's more. Train like a Navy SEAL. Get lean, mean, and ripped. Single best exercise. So one exercise for fat loss. How many of you here are in kinesiology? Does that even make sense? Just one single exercise. Right, so they're clearly not advertising to this person. Right? Again, body image. Don't wish for it, work for it. What is this person wishing for? Again, what is being projected onto this body? We're gonna go through it again. Narcissistic supply, right? What are they wishing for?
Yeah.
Which is what? Right. Yes. Don't wish for it. It's the idea that when I can look like this, I'll have access to mates. That has a lot to do with survival, access to mates, access to maybe position in the male group. We can talk about how many women we've had sex with. Positioning. How long has that been happening? I know that does, but that's a status thing. That's like trying to get up in the hierarchies. Okay, we're almost done. When you go back to school, how many of you were like, let's get the slim set before we go back to school? Because you can't go to school with your actual body. You have to change it first. And then you got this extreme burn cleanse, which is it really positive body image? Really, is it a good thing? If it requires a stimulant and probably a diuretic, right? And I think they've changed already. Can someone tell me, aren't they starting to kind of try to look more thin now versus the look? I mean, they're already freaking changing, right? Right. I think she took out a Brazilian butt lift. Right. And I think she got her breasts reduced again. Not that I need to fixate, but these are perfect examples of people who are seen as like, they've reached the land of aesthetic and like freedom and intellect and you know, into those higher levels of human existence, but yet they're still fixated on their imagery. It sucks for them. Okay, let's go through this quickly. Working out is your drug. Really, what is the drug? What are you getting addicted to? Yep, discipline is what you need to be done, even if you don't want to do it. For what? Discipline for what? Keeps on going. Keeps on going. Okay, this is a blogger. This is really impressive, I'm not gonna lie. How many people can do this? Oh, yeah. 4 hacks for bigger arms. Why would you want big arms? What does the function of big biceps really do? I'm not gonna make, so if you really love your biceps, good for you, good for you, keep on doing it. But when it comes to weight training, what are big biceps really gonna do for you? It might help with pull-ups, but your lats have to get bigger. Extreme, again, extreme, body checking. That means you have to look in the mirror, you have to make sure you meet the standard. We're almost done. Typically all or nothing. So next week, we're gonna start talking about anxiety, stress, and depression more intensely. I'm behind because I have to do a presentation tomorrow for a huge bulk of a class grade. If I can get to it, I'm gonna post some reading. If I don't, that's fine. We'll just start on Monday. And did I go through it all? Yeah. Did it. Okay, have a good weekend. You're welcome.